An investigative panel has cleared the Nigerian military of deliberately attacking women and children or carrying out secret abortions in its fight against insurgency in the northeast. The National Human Rights Commission had been investigating reports from Reuters against the Nigerian armed forces since 2022. Arise correspondent Shomomo Imodu has more.
The Reuters Nightmare in Nigeria report alleged atrocities committed by the Nigerian Armed Forces between 2013 and November 2021, necessitating the call for an investigation. But after a thorough investigation, the panel found that the claims were baseless.
It is to the credit of the panel members, the Secretariat, the National Human Rights Commission, and supporting partners today I can proudly assert that an extensive and thorough investigation based on justice and fairness has been achieved. The report we are presenting today has been a result of extensive work of the panel and its secretariat, encompassing 199 testimonies and a visit to 20 field locations.
While the panel accused Reuters of failing to appear before it to corroborate the allegations, the International Red Cross was indicted of operating medical facilities in the Northeast. The panel submitted that allegations of massacre of women and children were faulty and based on reconstruction of facts by Reuters.
The panel frowned at international organizations operating in Nigeria that refuse to obey constituted authorities, that also refuse to find themselves or make themselves available for international and national human rights mechanisms, as exemplified by the panel here today. And we have already mentioned the attitude of that ICRC and that Reuters and also Médecins Sans Frontières should hold themselves out in the same manner and in the same latitude that they want to hold others accountable.
With a turn of the table seemingly in the favor of the military, what could become the next action?
For the people who made the allegations not to come right from the beginning, cast a doubt as to whether they are sure of the allegations they made. That's one. And we have found out that substantially the allegations were not correct. Those against whom the allegations were made can now, they have the recourse of the law to them. I mean, if I made wrong allegations against you and it has been investigated and found not to be true, the process is open to you to take any other measure you want to do to access your remedy.
Investigating human rights violations provides the necessary ingredients to bring institutions and governments into conformity with international best practice. However, some questioned the impartiality of the panel, but for fear of intimidation, declined to speak on camera. Hopefully, the report will instill the much-needed confidence in the military. Shomomo Imodu, Arise News.
Well, lawyer and Arise news analyst Frank Tietie joins us now to expatiate on this. Good to see you and thanks for your time. Well, a whole lot of questions, not rhetorical questions, now questions that need answers on this. First, against the media organizations in this case. But again, help us make sense of the conclusion arrived at. First, time was when no one would want to investigate to verify such claim. But now this looks like something that has set the media against the world.
Well, I think if we were to go into a reputation contest between Reuters and some institutions in Nigeria, the world will make a quick and very easy conclusion as to who has the reputation to be believed in. The problem is that these are, allegations of crimes against humanity, I would say, that happened over a period of 10 years. Now, these allegations didn't they had to come from outside Nigeria by a media house that has a reputation for, correct reporting over the years. And so that's important. And now to also think that whether or not, the preliminary questions that are being raised at this time are, cogent. For example, did the special investigation, independent investigation panel, were able to particularly reach the women that Reuters was actually interviewed, because that's important, considering the period of time, 10 years, is quite a lot. What's important too is that we must, appear not to be carrying on just a mere face-saving, process, because the allegations have been out there since 2022. It has taken 2 years of investigation. Will it change anything? And what has actually been the fate of many panels like this in the past? So because of the principle, of international law of respect for sovereignty, in the sense that if there is a supposed allegation of war crime, in this case forced abortion, taking place in a country, it's expected that the authorities in the country take action, or if they fail to take action, the International Criminal Court could actually take action. And the prosecutor of the ICC was at the time interested in this matter. So giving the Nigerian military a clean bill may not necessarily calm the sense or restore the confidence in the international community, which is exhibited in the way Medicine Sans Frontières, the International Committee of the Red Cross, and Reuters itself, they all snubbed the panel, because the impression is that there is a history that casts some sense of doubt in terms of credibility of the outcome of these panels.
Does it help the case when these bodies, ICRC and the rest of them, Médecins Sans Frontières and what have you, actually don't show up at the panel to, really give credence to their claims?
Well, you see, that's the point. Do these, bodies you mentioned, do they respect the Nigerian authorities enough? Do they respect the impartiality of the panel enough? Do they think that these are establishment figures that will simply give a predictable outcome, as they have turned out? Perhaps it would have been different if the International Criminal Court was investigating. But the International Criminal Court, based probably on the complementarity principle in international law, would not hastily go into investigating, knowing that Nigeria has the capacity to carry out such investigation. That's why it's worrisome, because it's not really about we against Reuters. It's about our people, and it's about the contest as to whether we want to improve our human rights standards in this country. In this case, that's why we must be very careful that this does not look like a window dressing, like the many other reports that we've had before, some of which I've taken time to look at, and I have not been very impressed with the outcomes. But I did respect the fact that the panel did find the reality. It wasn't altogether a clean bill, but with regards to that particular issue of forced abortion, the panel didn't find any kind of evidence. So it speaks to the limitation of the panel, perhaps. So I've not, because it's on the preliminary consideration, we've not looked at the processes and the methodology that they have adopted. Yeah. But to think that they have interviewed quite a lot of military officers who worked in the medical facilities of the military over that period of time, 10 whole years. So there is a lot to question. So by the time we have taken time to look through the entire report and the international community making a response, because certainly I saw my very brilliant friend making Hilary Ogbonna making some conclusions there with regards to Reuters and ICRC. Yeah. These are not ordinary institutions. Medicine Sans Frontières, particularly ICRC, that has done quite a lot in developing the law of war in Nigeria, and has done so much in terms of providing humanitarian succor in the Northeast. You don't make such kind of sweeping, conclusions. They have absolute respect for international law, particularly international humanitarian law. I believe that they will respond appropriately as to why they didn't show up with regards to the panel. But I can actually figure a reason.
Frank, listen to you. Public trust is one big thing here. But again, good thing you're here. They didn't say some women. They say many.
Yes.
So in the case of many, at least we should be able to find one. So
we're talking about 10,000 abortions. 10,000 cases of abortions.
That's public trust.
So how do you think this will work in the face of the locals who have perhaps spoken to these organizations and the Nigerian military and now with this report. Now, public trust issues here.
Yes, a whole lot. But you see, public trust, the crisis of public trust should not be limited to government, because it should also interest you that it had to take an international, faraway organization like Reuters to take interest. So which means if Reuters didn't take that kind of interest, you know, so you're considering what local considerations are in this case, there wouldn't be any local perception of what has happened. And that's how we've had very grave violations of human rights across Nigeria, particularly in the northeast, where Nigeria is engaging in a war against insurgency. However, it's important. What this report shows is that local NGOs have a lot of responsibility. So we can't just sit down and begin to accuse international NGOs that have seen a present, clear, you know, humanitarian problem in northeast Nigeria, and you tell them to stay away because they are international bodies. Whereas the local NGOs, the local institutions, and even government is not doing enough. So in that case, when these international institutions come to northeast Nigeria, it's purely for humanitarian purposes, and they have helped Nigeria so much. The people of Nigeria would say, it doesn't matter, and I appreciate.
But some would argue with you that to a large extent, they really have not lived up to, you know, the billing. In fact, military response in the past, based on this, you know, similar claims, is that, look, this is just an attempt to weaken the hands of the military in the theater of war.
Not at all. First, we need to have a professional army, a professional military that operates according to the law of war. In this case, it may not necessarily apply the law of war. That's because it's a non-international armed conflict. It's dealing with a ragtag, supposed ragtag group, Boko Haram. But we must move away from this outright condemnation. The international community, did they start the war? Because there are a lot of conspiracy theories over there. The idea of humanitarian bodies coming to Nigeria to offer help to the people of Borno State or generally in the Northeast cannot in any way be equated as any form of defiance to the Nigerian authorities. However, they came to help the Nigerian people. I expect that they must respond to the fact that here we are, the Nigerian authorities accusing them of outright defiance of the sovereignty or the authority of Nigeria. I won't say sovereignty, but I believe that they have put out their report there. Local NGOs, local human rights activists, and leaders, politicians are the ones who are supposed to be asking questions, who are supposed to interrogate the report and say, look, how much does this report reflect the truth and how can it be helpful? I've seen, you have looked at some of the recommendations, and I've seen that a certain amount of compensation is being recommended to be paid to some persons that were killed, you know, unlawfully by by soldiers who raided certain villages. However, that should not take away, that should not distract attention from the fact that we're talking about the women's rights that were targeted here, sexual-based violence that were committed against Nigerian women, that Nigerian authorities could not, you know, find out. They didn't know anything about it, that he had to take Reuters all the way. And now Reuters knows. I mean, are you now going to put Reuters on trial for attempting to show that Nigeria has a problem?
All right, then.
So we'll have to leave it there. Frank Tietie, thank you so much for joining us.